If you're buying a home in Tucson and it has an HOA, there are 5 things you need to understand before you sign that contract, because HOA rules in Arizona can be very different from what you're used to. And if you don't know what to look for, you can end up in a community that restricts how you live in ways you never expected. Let me walk you through what you actually need to know. I'm Meg Estes, your Easy Home Girl, and I help people buy homes in Tucson, Vail, Oro Valley, and the surrounding areas. And one of the most common questions I get, especially from California and Oregon buyers, is about the HOAs. How do they work in Arizona? What's normal? What should I be worried about? Here's the reality. HOAs in Arizona have a lot of power, more power than in many other states. And the rules can be very specific about what you can do and what you cannot do with your property. So if you're buying horse property, an RV, or even just painting your house a certain color, the HOA can stop you. And if you violate the rules, the consequences can be very, very expensive. So today I'm breaking down everything you need to know about HOAs in Tucson before you buy. We're covering HOAs versus no HOAs, master HOAs, what fees actually cover, common restrictions, how to read CC&Rs, financial red flags, and the questions you need to ask before you make an offer. This is protective information. This is what keeps you from making an expensive mistake. So let's get into it. Issue number 1, understanding HOAs versus no HOAs. Not all homes in Tucson have HOAs. And whether or not you want one depends entirely on your lifestyle and your priorities. So let me break down the pros and cons. HOA pros: you do get maintained common areas. That means landscaping, pools, parks, and amenities are taken care of. You don't have to mow a community lawn or clean the shared pool. The HOA handles all of that. You also get architectural consistency. HOAs enforce rules about paint colors, roof types, and landscaping standards. So your neighbor can't paint their house neon green or park an RV out in front. For a lot of people, that is exactly what they want, especially retirees in 55 and up communities. The whole point is low maintenance and aesthetic consistency. HOA cons: you lose autonomy. You need HOA approval to make changes to your property. Want to add a pergola? You need approval. Want to paint your house? You need to submit a color sample. Want to install solar panels? You need architectural approval. And if your HOA has strict rules about things you care about, like owning horses, parking an RV, or running a home business, you could be restricted. You also have ongoing fees. HOA fees are monthly annual costs that never go away, and they can increase, sometimes even significantly. Now let's talk about no HOA. No HOA means you have complete control over your property. You can paint it any color you want. You can park your RV in your driveway. You can build with what you want within county zoning rules. This is common in rural areas like Vail, Sonoyta, and Tinque Verde. If you're buying horse property or acreage, there are often no HOAs. The trade-off: you're responsible for everything. There are no shared amenities, and your neighbor can do whatever they want with their property as well, which may or may not align with your preferences. So the question is, what matters more to you? Control and freedom, or consistency and maintenance? Issue number 2 is understanding master HOAs versus sub-HOAs. This is something a lot of buyers don't realize until after they close, and it can be really confusing. In many planned communities like Oro Valley, Marana, Northwest Tucson, you have both a master HOA and a sub-HOA. So let me tell you how that works. The master HOA governs the entire master plan community. It maintains the main entry gates, community parks, walking trails, and major infrastructure. The sub-HOA governs your specific neighborhood within the master plan community. It maintains your neighborhood pool, landscaping, and enforces your neighborhood's specific rules, which means you're paying 2 HOA fees, one to the master and one to the sub, and you have to follow 2 sets of rules. The master HOA might say you can't have RVs visible from the street, but the sub-HOA might say you can't have certain types of fencing, and both apply to you. Let me give you a real example. Dove Mountain has a master HOA. If you buy in Del Webb at Dove Mountain, you also have Del Webb Sub-HOA. So you're paying both. The master HOA fee might be $50 a month and the sub might be $150 a month. So that's $200 total a month in HOA fees. Now, that might be worth it though for the amenities, but you need to know upfront that you're paying both. A lot of buyers are surprised when they see 2 HOA line items on their closing statement. So anytime you're looking at a home in a master plan community, ask your agent, is there a master HOA? Is there a sub HOA? What are both fees? And what do they cover? Issue number 3 is what HOA fees actually cover. HOA fees can range from $50 to $500 a month depending on the community, and you need to know what you're paying for. Here's what's typically included. Common area maintenance is the most common. Landscaping, pools, parks, walking trails, and clubhouses. If your community has a fitness center or golf course, part of your fees goes towards maintaining that. Exterior building maintenance is sometimes included. In some HOAs, especially condos and townhomes, the fee covers roof repairs, exterior paint, and structural maintenance. You're only responsible for the interior. Utilities for common areas are also sometimes included. Water, landscaping, electricity for the clubhouse lighting, and trash removal for community areas. Reserve fund contributions. This is money set aside for future repairs and capital improvements. If the common community pool needs to be resurfaced in 5 years, the reserve fund should cover that. Management fees are also involved, and most HOAs hire a property management company to handle day-to-day operations, enforce rules, and coordinate maintenance. Part of your fee pays for all of that. Now, here's what HOA fees typically do not cover. Your individual home repairs, if your roof leaks, that's on you, unless it's a condo or a townhome with exterior maintenance included. Your individual utilities are yours. You still pay your own water, your electric, gas, and trash, unless sometimes in a condo with utilities included in the fees. Special assessments. If the HOA doesn't have enough money in the reserve fund to cover major repairs, they can issue a special assessment to the community. That's a one-time fee charged to all homeowners, and it can be thousands of dollars depending on what they need. So when you're evaluating an HOA, you do need to ask, what does the fee cover? What am I still responsible for? And does the HOA have a healthy reserve fund? Issue number 4, common HOA restrictions that catch buyers off guard. Arizona HOAs can be very specific what you can and cannot do. And some of these rules surprise people, especially California and Oregon buyers who are used to more lenient HOAs. Let me walk you through the most common restrictions. RVs and boats. Many HOAs do not allow RVs, boats, or trailers to be parked in your driveway or visible from the street. Some HOAs have RV storage lots within their community. Others require you to store them off-site. If you own an RV and you want to park it at home, you need to confirm with the HOA that it allows it before you buy. HOAs typically do not allow livestock and horses. This is huge for ranch property buyers. Some HOAs in Vail and Oro Valley do allow horses, others don't. And the ones that do often have restrictions on the number of horses, where you can build a barn, and how close it can be to your neighbor's property line. If you are buying horse property, you need to read the CC&Rs. Don't assume the HOA allows horses just because the lot is big enough. You also have to deal with paint colors and exterior changes. Most HOAs require you to submit an application before painting your house, installing a new roof, adding a pergola, or making any exterior changes. And they can say no, or they can approve it with some conditions. I've seen HOAs reject paint colors because they weren't on the approved palette. I've also seen HOAs require homeowners to remove pergolas that were built without approval. Landscaping requirements are another. Some HOAs require you to maintain a certain level of landscaping. If your front yard dies and you don't replant it, the HOA can fine you, or they can hire a landscaping company to fix it and charge you for the cost. Home businesses are also a restriction sometimes. If you're planning to run a business from home, we need to check the CC&Rs. Some HOAs prohibit home-based businesses, especially if they involve clients coming in and out of the home, or commercial vehicles parked in your driveway. There are also rental restrictions. Some HOAs limit how often you can rent your home. They might require a minimum lease term of 6 months to 1 year. If you're buying an investment property, this can impact your rental strategy. Next up is solar panels. Arizona is a solar-friendly state, but HOAs still restrict where you can install solar panels or require architectural approval. This is changing, but it's worth checking. The point is that HOAs in Arizona have a lot of control, and if you violate the rules, they can fine you. And if you don't pay the fines, they can put a lien on your property. We see it all the time. So you need to know what the restrictions are before you buy. Issue number 5 is how to read the CC&Rs before you buy. CC&R stands for Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions. It's the legal document that outlines all the HOA rules along with the community. And you should read it before you even make an offer. I know it's long, I know it's boring, but it's the only way to know exactly what you're agreeing to. Here's what you should look for. Restrictions that matter to you. If you have an RV, search for RV or recreational vehicle in the document. If you want to paint your house a specific color, look for the paint approval process. If you have horses, search for livestock or horses within the document as well. Don't assume anything. Read the actual language and approval processes. Look for how you submit requests for changes. Is there an architectural review committee? How long do they take to approve or deny requests? What happens if they do deny your requests? Enforcements and fines. We need to look for the section on enforcements and what are the fines for the violations. How much notice do you get before a fine is issued? Can the HOA put a lien on your property? And then there's the amendment process. Can the HOA change the rules? How? Do homeowners get to vote on the changes, or can the board change the rules without a vote? This is important because an HOA that allows RVs today might vote to ban them next year, and you'd be required to comply. So if the CC&Rs are vague, confusing, or missing information, that's a huge red flag, and you should ask questions before you proceed. Issue 6, HOA financial red flags. An HOA is a business, and like business, it can be well managed or poorly managed. Before you buy in an HOA, you should review the HOA financials. Your agent can request these documents during the due diligence period. And here's what you should look for. Reserve fund balance. The reserve fund is the HOA's savings account for future repairs. A healthy HOA should have at least 25 to 50% of its annual budget in the reserve. If the reserve fund is low or empty, that's a huge, huge red flag. It means the HOA might not have enough money to cover a major repair. And that means special assessments are more than likely gonna show up. Delinquency rate is another one. This is the percentage of homeowners who are behind on their HOA dues. If the delinquency rate is high, say like 10% or more, that's also a problem. It means the HOA isn't collecting enough money to cover its expenses. Then you also have to worry about pending lawsuits. If the HOA is involved in a lawsuit, you do need to know that. Lawsuits are expensive, and if the HOA loses, homeowners could be hit with a special assessment to cover legal fees and damages. The other thing is the deferred maintenance. Look at the maintenance schedule. Are repairs being done on time, or is the HOA delaying because they don't have the budget? Deferred maintenance becomes very expensive. A pool that should have been resurfaced 5 years ago will cost more to fix now. And then you also want to review the special assessments. Has the HOA issued special assessments in the past? If yes, how often and for how much? Frequent special assessments are a sign of poor financial planning. If the HOA's financials look shaky, you need to think carefully about whether you want to buy in that community, because you'll be sharing the financial burden with all the other homeowners. Issue number 7, questions to ask before you buy. Here's a checklist of questions that you should be asking your agent and the HOA before you make an offer. What is the monthly or annual HOA fee? And what does that all cover? Is there a master HOA and a sub-HOA? If yes, what are both of those fees? Does the HOA allow RVs, boats, or trailers? If yes, where can they be parked? Does the HOA allow horses and livestock? If yes, how many? And what are the restrictions for those as well? What is the paint approval process and how long does that take? Are there rental restrictions? Can I rent my home short-term or long-term? What is the reserve fund balance? And what is the delinquency rate? Are there any pending lawsuits or special assessments? Can I see the CC&Rs before I make an offer? These questions protect you. They help you understand exactly what you're getting into before you commit. So those are 7 things you need to know about HOAs in Arizona before you buy. HOA versus no HOA, master versus sub, what fees actually cover common restrictions, and how to read the CC&Rs along with financial red flags. And the questions you need to ask yourself: does this mean you should avoid HOAs? Not necessarily. HOAs work great for a lot of people, especially retirees who want low maintenance or families who want amenities like pools and parks. But you need to go into it with your eyes open. You need to know the rules, you need to understand the fees, and you need to make sure the HOA is financially healthy. So here's my question for you. Are you buying in a community with an HOA, or are you specifically looking for no HOA? Drop it in the comments, and if you want my complete HOA buyer checklist with every question to ask and every document to review before you buy, just comment HOA checklist below or send it to me in a text. I'll send that over to you with no problem. If you're buying a home in Tucson, Vail, Oro Valley, or the surrounding areas, I would love to help navigate those HOAs for you. So let's talk. This is what I do every day, and I can help you avoid the expensive mistakes. Call or text me at 520-980-9880. I'd love to help you find the right home in the right community. I'm Meg Estes, your AZ homegirl. I will definitely be seeing you in the next video. And if you found this helpful, hit the subscribe button. I'm putting out 2 videos a week covering Southern Arizona real estate, buyer education, and everything you need to know about living here.